Hello friends, welcome to UGC EPG Pathshala. I am Dr. Lubna Siddiqui, Assistant Professor, Department of Geography, Jamia Millia Islamia, New Delhi. Today I am going to discuss about the module Biodiversity Hotspots and Hope Spots, which comes under the paper Environmental Geography. The objectives of this module are, at the end of this module, the students should be able to explain the difference between biodiversity hotspot and hope spot, recognize the distribution of biodiversity hotspot in the world and India, recognize the distribution of biodiversity hope spot in the world and India. Now, biodiversity. Biodiversity or biological diversity refers to the variety of life on earth. In other words, biodiversity simply means variety of living species of organisms of both plant and animals communities in an ecosystem having certain specific environmental conditions and larger spatial scale, such as tropical rainforest ecosystem, savanna ecosystem, temperate grassland ecosystem, etc. Biodiversity is the variability among living organisms from all sources, including terrestrial, marine and other aquatic ecosystems and the ecological complexes of which they are part. This includes diversity within species, between species and of ecosystem. Biodiversity forms the foundation of the vast array of ecosystem services that critically contribute to human well-being. The term biodiversity was first coined by Walter G. Rosen in the year 1986. The term biodiversity encompasses three categories: genetic diversity, species diversity and ecosystem diversity. Genetic diversity describes the variation of genes within a species. Species diversity describes the variety of species within a region, and ecosystem diversity refers to the number and distribution of ecosystem. Now, biodiversity hotspots. A biodiversity hotspot is a biogeographic region that is both a significant reservoir of biodiversity and is threatened with destruction. The term biodiversity hotspots was first coined and used by Norman Mears, a British ecologist, in the year 1988. He defined biodiversity hotspot as those areas which have rich biological communities including plants, animals and microorganisms wherein endemic species predominate. The biodiversity hotspots also illustrate the uneven distribution of biodiversity on the earth. According to Mears, to qualify as a hotspot, an area must contain 0.5% or 1500 of the world's 3 lakh plant species and should have lost 70% or more of its primary vegetation. Mayer suggested that global conservation efforts should be concentrated in areas where there were high numbers of endemic species and the threats to those species was high. The reasoning behind this approach is that the most cost-effective way of reducing species extinction is to focus resources on saving centers of threatened endemic species. The main purpose of describing hotspots is to emphasize spatial variation in the value of biodiversity. As the Iocation of biodiversity hotspots describe areas of relatively high value. They are often used to guide conservation policy and planning. Conservation International adopted Mayer's hotspot as its institutional blueprint in 1989, and in 1999 the organization undertook an extensive global review which introduced quantitative thresholds for the designation of biodiversity hotspots. A reworking of the hotspots analysis in 2004 resulted in the system in place today. Currently, 34 biodiversity hotspots have been identified, most of which occur in tropical forest. They represent just 2.3% of Earth's land surface. They once covered 15.7% of the Earth's land surface, but between them, they contain around 50% of the world's endemic plant species and 42% of all terrestrial vertebrates. Overall, hotspots have lost around 86% of their original habitat and additionally are considered to be significantly threatened by extinctions induced by climate change. Now, next is biodiversity hotspots in the world. In the contemporary times, 34 biodiversity hotspot areas have been identified in the world, as shown in figure 2. It may be mentioned that the endemic species are those species of plants and animals, including microorganisms, which are found in specific areas. The areas are discussed as under. Number 1, North and Central America, California floristic province, Madrean pine oak woodlands, Mesoamerica. Number 2, the Caribbean islands. Number 3, South America, Atlantic forest, Cerrado Chilean winter rainfall, Valdivian forest, Tumbers Choco Magdalena tropical Andes. Number 4, Europe, Mediterranean basin. Number 5, Africa, Cape floristic region, coastal forest of eastern Africa, eastern Afro-Montane Guinean forest of West Africa, Horn of Africa, Madagascar and the Indian Ocean islands, Maputo land, Pondu land, Albini, succulent Karoo, Central Asia. Number 6, Central Asia, mountains of Central Asia. Number 7, South Asia, Himalaya, that is Nepal, Indo-Burma, that is India and Myanmar, Western Ghats and Sri Lanka, that is India and Sri Lanka. Number 8, Southeast Asia and Asia Pacific, East Melanesian Islands, New Caledonia, New Zealand, Philippines, Polynesia, Micronesia, Southwest Australia, Sunda land, Wallacea. Number 9, East Asia, Japan, mountains of Southwest China. Number 10, West Asia, Caucasus, Irano-Anatolian. Figure 1 shows the share of described species on the earth. Now, biodiversity hotspots in India. India shares its territories into 3 biodiversity hotspots, that is Eastern Himalaya, Western Ghats and Indo-Burma as shown in figure 3. There are 4 hotspots regions in India, namely Himalaya, Indo-Burma, Sunda lands and Western Ghats and Sri Lanka. Out of them, Himalaya and Western Ghats are mostly located within India's territory. In the Indo-Burma biodiversity hotspot, India shares only a small part in northeast India. Number 1, the Indo-Burma. Indo-Burma biodiversity hotspot includes parts of northeastern India, Bangladesh, Malaysia, Myanmar, Thailand, Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia and southern China, encompassing more than 2 million square kilometers of tropical Asia. Indo-Burma is still revealing its biological treasures. This hotspot also holds remarkable endemism in freshwater turtle species, most of which are threatened with extinction due to over-harvesting and extensive habitat loss. Bird life in Indo-Burma is also incredibly diverse, holding almost 1,300 different bird species, including the threatened white-eared night heron, the grey-crowned crocius and the orange-necked partridge. The Indo-Burma hotspot encompasses 23,73,000 square kilometer of tropical Asia east of the Ganges, Brahmaputra lowlands, formerly including the Himalayan chain and the associated foothills in Nepal, Bhutan and India. The Indo-Burma hotspot has now been more narrowly redefined as the Indo-Chinese subregion. The hotspot contains the lower Mekong catchment. It begins in eastern Bangladesh and then extends across northeastern India south of the Brahmaputra river to encompass nearly all of Myanmar, part of southern and western Yunnan province in China, all of the Law People's Democratic Republic, Cambodia and Vietnam, the vast majority of Thailand and a small part of peninsular Malaysia. A wide diversity of ecosystem is represented in this hotspot, including mixed wet evergreen, dry evergreen, deciduous and montane forest. There are also patches of shrublands and woodlands on karst limestone outcrops and in some coastal areas scattered heath forest. In addition, a wide variety of distinctive and localized vegetation formalization occur in Indo-Burma, including lowland floodplain swamps, mangroves and seasonally inundated grasslands. A conservative estimate of total plant diversity in the hotspot reveals about 13,500 vascular plant species, of which about 7,000, that is 52%, are endemic. Among the flora of the Indo-Burma hotspot are a wide array of orchid and ginger species, that is there are more than 1,000 orchid species in Thailand alone, and many tropical hardwood trees including commercially valuable dipterocarp species and teak. Number 2, Himalaya. Himalaya includes the entire Himalayan region and that falling in Pakistan, Tibet, Nepal, Bhutan, China and Myanmar. The Himalaya hotspot is home to the world's highest mountains, including Mount Everest. The mountains rise abruptly, resulting in a diversity of ecosystems that range from alluvial grasslands and subtropical broadleaf forest to alpine meadows above the tree line. This immense mountain range, which covers nearly 750,000 square kilometer, has been divided into two regions. The eastern Himalaya, which covers parts of Nepal, Bhutan, the northeast Indian states of West Bengal, Sikkim, Assam and Arunachal Pradesh, southeast Tibet, that is autonomous region of China, and northern Myanmar, and the western Himalaya covering the Kumaon, Garhwal, northwest Kashmir, northern Pakistan. Of the estimated 10,000 species of plants in the Himalayan hotspot, about 3,160 are endemic, as are 71 genera. The region is characterized by the presence of colored rhododendrons, bamboos and variety of orchid species. This region is characterized by endangered species such as bharal, ibex, markhor, takin and others are hungul and musk deer. Number 3, Sundalands. Sundalands includes Nicobar group of islands and Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore, Brunei and Philippines. The Sundaland hotspot covers the western half of the Indo-Malayan archipelago, an arc of some 17,000 equatorial islands, and is dominated by two of the largest islands in the world, Borneo, that is 7,25,000 square kilometer, and Sumatra, that is 4,27,300 square kilometer. Politically, Sundaland covers a small portion of southern Thailand, provinces of Pattani, Yela and Narathiwat, nearly all of Malaysia, that is nearly all of peninsular Malaysia and the East Malaysian states of Sarawak and Sabah in northern Borneo, Singapore at the tip of the Malay Peninsula, all of Brunei Darussalam and all of the western half of the mega diversity country of Indonesia, including Kalimantan, the Indonesian portion of Borneo, Sumatra, Java and Bali. The Nicobar Islands, that is a part of Andaman and Nicobar groups of archipelago which are under Indian jurisdiction, are also included. Sundaland is one of the biological richest hotspot on earth, holding about 25,000 species of vascular plants, 15,000, that is 60% of which are found nowhere else. Number 4, Western Ghats and Sri Lanka. Western Ghats and Sri Lanka includes entire Western Ghats and Sri Lanka. Faced with tremendous population pressure, the forests of the Western Ghats and Sri Lanka have been dramatically impacted by the demands for timber and agricultural land. Remaining forests of the Western Ghats are heavily fragmented. In Sri Lanka, only 1.5% of the original forest remains. The entire extent of hotspot was originally about 1,82,500 square kilometer, but due to tremendous population pressure, now only 12,445 square kilometer or 6.8% is in pristine conditions. Population levels are also applying increased stress on the fingers of protected areas where many farms, loggers and poachers use the resources illegally. Due in part to the varying effect of the yearly monsoons and the high mountain regions, this hotspot is home to a rich endemic assemblage of plants, reptiles and amphibians. Sri Lanka alone may be home to as many as 140 endemic species of amphibians. The region also houses important populations of Asian elephants, Indian tigers and the endangered lion-tailed macaque freshwater fish. Endemism is extremely high as well, with other 140 native species. There are a minimum of 6,000 vascular plant species in the Western Ghats and Sri Lanka hotspot, of which more than 3,000, that is 52%, are endemic. There are also more than 80 endemic plant genera, many of which have only one species. Extremely high population pressure in both countries of this hotspot has seriously stressed the region's biodiversity. There are more than 1 billion people in India and almost 20 million in Sri Lanka. Nearly 50 million people occur in the hotspot overall at a density of 260 people per square kilometer, one of the highest in hotspots. It is largely that no more than about 25% of the extent of original native vegetation remains in relatively. Figure 2 shows the biodiversity hotspots in the world. Now, biodiversity hope spot. A hope spot is an area of ocean that is under special protection because of its wildlife and significant underwater habitat. Since they are places where human activities and impacts will be minimized, the unique and vital ecosystems within the hope spots will have a chance to recover and to flourish. Work on some hope spots has already commenced, with advanced management plans being put in place where others are still in the early stages. Each hope spot has been carefully chosen for its geographical uniqueness, its diversity of marine life and its exceptional habitat. Full protection of these vital areas of the ocean must become a global priority. Hope spots in the world. The first question which comes into the mind is that when the ocean is so vast, why the identification of hope spots becomes necessary for the conservation and management of ocean and marine life. The answer lies in the fact that until recently, we humans also view the ocean's natural resources as limitless. In the 20th century, artisan fishing gave way to factory trawlers that pull up thousands of pounds of marine life at a time. It was not until recent decades that the effects of industrial fishing became obvious. The United Nations estimates that 60% of the world's major marine ecosystems have been degraded or are being used unsustainably. Take Pacific bluefin tuna, for example, whose population have crashed over 97% from historic norms. This is one side of the story, that we are taking out more than enough from our oceans for satisfying our needs and wants. The other side of the story is that beyond taking too much out, we are also putting too much into the ocean. Did you know that ships on the high seas routinely dump trash and sewage into the ocean? Or that plastic pollution has permeated the entire ocean, forming massive gyres, with plastic pollution being found even in the once pristine Arctic Sea. Beyond trash, man-made carbon dioxide is also dissolving into the ocean, making it more acidic, while rising global temperatures have caused widespread coral bleaching. For example, did you know the US lost half of its coral reefs in the Caribbean in 1 year due to a massive bleaching event? The ocean as a system, our life support system, is in trouble, and whatever we can do, whether it is in our community, state or country, region or in the high seas, we should really respect what the ocean gives us, says Sylvia Earle. Not what we can take out of the ocean in terms of pounds of fish, minerals, oil or gas, or the fact that we can use the ocean as a dump site. What we extract from the ocean that's most meaningful is our existence. Our job should be to return this favor and keep the ocean alive. Sylvia Earle is an oceanographer and was born in 1935 and is also known by the term her deepness. Has led more than 50 expeditions around the world with more than 6,000 hours underwater. As an explorer in residence at the National Geographic Society, she is an advocate for underwater creatures and their ocean habitat. In recent years, Sylvia Earle has worked to create a network of marine protected areas throughout the world. From her immense effort, it can be inferred that the beautiful thing about the ocean is that humans don't have to do anything to bring it back to health. All we need to do is stop thinking so much out and putting so much into it. We can accomplish this by establishing marine protected areas, that is MPAs, places where resource extraction, whether of fish or deep sea oil and gas, is not allowed. Science shows that marine life bounces back when we take the pressure off marine ecosystems and give the fish, sharks, coral and phytoplankton some breathing room to regenerate and thrive. During the 3rd International Marine Protected Areas Congress, that is Impact 3, the Mission Blue and IUCN have launched 31 new Mission Blue Hope Spots marine protected areas across the globe to massively scale up the level of marine protection that protects consider necessary for a sustainable future. A hope spot is an area of ocean that merits special protection because of its wildlife and significant underwater habitats. Each hope spot can give the ocean a breathing space from human activities so that it may recover and flourish. Dr. Earle named these areas hope spots because they represent a real hope to restore the health of our imperiled ocean. The 31 new announcements come in addition to the 19 hope spots that Mission Blue has worked to protect over the last 4 years. We are fortunate to live in a sweet spot in time. Now we know what is happening to our fragile blue planet and its ocean, and we also know what steps are needed to change the course we are on. With this message of hope, Mission Blue and IUCN are mobilizing a growing international community of stakeholders to take the urgent action needed to reverse the ocean's current state of peril while we are still in this special sweet spot in time. The geographical location of hope spots are given in figure 4. Now, hope spots in India. Andaman and Nicobar Islands and islands have recently been named as the new hope spots by the International Union for Conservation of Nature, that is IUCN, and Mission Blue, an organization involved in the study of the oceans. The two groups of islands, considered extremely rich in marine biodiversity, are the first places in India to have been added in the list of 50 global hope spots. Earlier, 13 hope spots had been identified all around the world. The additional list of 31 new hope spots was released by IUCN and Mission Blue on October 23, 2013. Mission Blue is an initiative of the Sylvia Earle Alliance to ignite public support for the protection of hope spots through the creation of a global network of marine protected areas to safeguard 20% of the ocean by 2020. The Andaman and Nicobar have 556 islets with unique flora and fauna. The Andaman and Nicobar Islands are home to some of the richest varieties of flora and fauna, with 86% of the islands covered in primary tropical rainforest. Out of the 2000 plus species of plants that grow on the islands, at least 1300 are exclusive and not found in mainland India. There are around 270 species and subspecies of birds in these two islands, of which around 106 have been declared endemic. The Andaman wood pigeons, Andaman paddock and dugong have been declared the state bird, the state tree and state animal respectively. There are about 96 wildlife sanctuaries, 9 national parks and 1 biosphere reserve in the islands. Andaman and Nicobar Islands have been declared a hope spot as it has some of world's unique of birds and plants. In the case of Lakshadweep, the coral reefs are quite sensitive to the ocean environment and that needs protection. These are some of the reasons behind declaring these areas as areas of hope spots by IUCN. Lakshadweep is home to some of the unique plant and animal species that add to the beauty of this archipelago. However, the few studies done in these waters indicate that these systems are perhaps the richest marine environments in the country. The mangrove forests of the Andamans are among the most extensive in India and perhaps the least disturbed. The extensive sea grass meadows in the north are home to the highly endangered dugong and may request the most feasible place forest conservation in the subcontinent. Figure 4 shows the biodiversity hope spots in India. I hope you have understood the concept of biodiversity, hotspots and hope spots. See you next time. Thank you.